all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly values, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. Hey there, everybody. How we doing today? How is everyone doing today? Thank you so much, Spellman, for kicking off the contributions with your super sticker. I appreciate you. You know, this I needed to talk about this. I needed to talk about Kirk Franklin. Now, we're not going to go through his whole, he released like a short documentary called Father's Day, which is the name of his new album that's going to drop in October. But it is not just like a promotional little segment just to promote his album. It had a depth to it because I don't follow Kirk, but if you he has been popular and famous for so long, you may have heard, even if you don't really listen to gospel music or you don't really follow him as an artist or producer. But Kirk has always been open about having been adopted and that his biological mother did not raise him, and he's never known really who his father is. He was adopted by an elderly woman. When he was 4, she was like 64. And he said, he grew up alone. He wasn't raised with like cousins and brothers and sisters and extended family and things of that nature. So he was just sort of a lonely child, right? Without having any peers really, and things of that nature. And I'm kind of giving you a background because we're not going to watch. It's only like 35 minutes, but we can't go through all of it. I'm going to go through key points and show you key points of the documentary that he made because it's on his YouTube channel. He released it on his YouTube channel. And I'm just trying to give the background for those of you who don't know the story. And so he was just a lonely little boy who he said grew up with a lot of abandonment issues. He grew up with a lot of self-esteem issues just because, the adoption and all of those sorts of things. He just was always wondering why he wasn't good enough. Why wasn't he good enough for his mom to want him? Why wasn't he good enough for his father, whoever his father was, and all of those things. So he said there was a piano in the house and he began to play that when he was a young boy. And that's where like the music came from. And he said trying to have a spiritual connection with God because he didn't have anybody else. He didn't have anything else. And so, by the way, Kirk is 53 years old. Okay. Kirk is 53. So for 53 years, he did not know who his father was, although he thought he knew who his father was. So she had eventually told him that some other man was his father. And he had spent so long, he said, almost a lifetime, hating and just having this disdain for this man. Eventually, the man succumbs to cancer. He's on his deathbed. Kirk makes his way to this man to do what he believed was reconciling with his father before his father goes to his grave, and trying to let go of the trauma and the hatred and all of these negative feelings that he had for this man. So he did what he thought was reconciliation with this man, and that man passed away. So this was probably 2000, I think he says 2017 or something like that, he says. And so he's thinking that he's buried his father, his estranged father. So now, picking up where this is, where I'm going to help you guys to see it. He has a background singer named Melody, whom he said he's been knowing since they were children, since he was a child. And he said that Melody had attended the funeral of Kirk's biological aunt. Now, mind you, he doesn't really know these people. They're his biological family, but because his mother didn't raise him and didn't bring him around like the family like that, he doesn't really have like a familial connection to those people. So he was not at the funeral of his biological aunt. And matter of fact, his mother, he had only ever seen her a couple of times a year growing up. So at the time of this funeral, he had not seen or spoken to his mother in probably 20, 23 years, right? So really no contact. So at this funeral, Melody's father's friend named Rick has attended. And just randomly, he says that he used to date Kirk Franklin's mother, Deborah. Hope y'all keeping up. When he was young. So just that conversation sort of sparked rumors that he might actually be Kirk's father, because when he said that, the people at the funeral started looking like, wait a minute, you low-key look like Kirk. Like, you kind of look like him. Wait a minute. Is you Kirk daddy? So that rumor began to swirl around. So his mother, he says, finds his number and texts and leaves a message telling him that if he wanted to discuss those rumors, that, you know, he could talk to her and she wasn't going to lie to him about anything. He could ask her whatever he wanted to ask her and all of these sorts of things. So the rumor it got so much legs to where Rick went voluntarily to go get swabbed for a DNA test. And he had handed the samples to Melody to give to Kirk and told her to tell him he let Kirk do whatever he wants to do with him. If he wants to know, if he, you know, whatever, then, you know, just because he had heard the rumors. Now, mind you, Rick has no idea that he's the father of anybody, any children that he don't know about, let alone Kirk Franklin's father. So this isn't information that he's known or even suspected. He doesn't know. The only reason he goes to get a DNA test is to either put the rumors to bed or confirm them or whatever. So Kirk takes these samples and he goes and gets his own self swabbed to get the results of the DNA test. And this is where we're going to pick up. I needed to give you all the background so that you can understand the impact of this DNA test. Thank you to Renzo. Sweetheart said, when our mothers and fathers aren't telling the truth over lies, just being silent and leaving the world without giving a child closure, who else will? And that's something we're going to really talk about today. And thank you so much. Thank you, Alboski said, why isn't there an option to join your channel? I haven't turned on memberships, only because I know if I turn on memberships, I'm going to have to do membership content. And I'm still weighing the options of that because I have a Patreon also, and I do content there as well as here. So I haven't shut down that concept or the idea of introducing membership to the channel. I may still do that, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that in tandem with Patreon or instead of Patreon. That I don't know. But thank you so much for asking, and thank you for your contribution, sweetheart. Thank you, Miss Lucasey, for your super sticker, beloved. Thank you, Rodney. So finally got you live high from 69th in the Dan Ryan. Oh, you off 69th in the Ryan? Be careful over there. All right. So, yes. So that's embarrassing. Everyone involved is embarrassed except the woman that transgressed. She's immune to embarrassment. Yes. Let's take a look. So we're picking up where Kirk gets this news. Before we continue on, we got to process with him that's not a one-off. That's not just Kirk Franklin's story. That's not just him. How many men? And I'm focusing on the men. Not that the girls haven't had this same trauma, but I'm focusing on the men this time around and the impact of the men this time around, because this is actually one of the ways in which the women participate in the disconnect between Black men as a whole. This is how generational curses get started. This how they get started. How many men whose names we will never know because they're not famous, because they're not rich, because they're not in the public eye. How many men whose names we will not know have suffered from identity crises, not knowing who they are, not understanding themselves, being lost in the sea and just trying to figure it out, making all kind of mistakes, all kinds of trouble they done got into, all types of, philosophies they done followed that didn't help them, all kinds of stuff. He just so happened to be one that didn't get caught up in the jail system and didn't get caught up in the drug thing and all that kind of stuff, and his whole life ruined. He found the talent and he made good on it. Whatever else he did in his life, he made good on the talent and became successful. But all of that success, all of that monetary success, which is fine, but he said it himself, I've always been the most insecure man in the room because I don't know who I am. I don't know where I came from. I don't know who my daddy is. And these hyenas don't care. They figure long as you know who she is. Now, all she did was come around once or twice in his life just to make sure he knew she was his mama. And I guess once he made it, hey, that's my son. And I guess she could ask for something. And that she get to be proud of a product that she did not have no hand in forming. He made it successful in spite of her, not because of her. Because she did not raise him. She pawned him off to another relative, a kind of a distant relative. Pawned him off on an old lady who didn't have too much longer to go to raise a little bitty boy. And while he never said that old lady mistreated him or nothing like that, it was just the fact of the matter. You wasn't even right. And you know, his mama old. If Kirk is 53, she got to be at least in her 70s. And you mean to tell me you was that much of a baby booming thought that you couldn't even raise your own? You know, back in the day, not raising your kids as a mother was almost unheard of. If you was getting pawning your kids off, that means you was busy out in them streets. You was steady running around here slanging them that 1950s March on Washington Kit Kat so bad that you couldn't raise your kids. And not only that, you deprive him of his father. So you either didn't know who his daddy was, you was slanging Kit Kat that bad that you didn't know who his daddy was, or you did know who his daddy was and you just denied it. Who knows what ancient Kemet lie she was trying to cover up still? Don't nobody care nothing about them hieroglyphic lies. You old now, ma'am. Blow the dust off of you and tell the truth. Anyway, let me get to these super chats real quick. Thank you, What's a King to a God. So I had the same reaction when my mom told me the dude who I thought was my father really wasn't. It was hard to process because my whole life was a lie. And I'm sorry you had to go through that, sweetheart. Thank you so much for sharing that and for your contribution. Thank you so much, Common Man. Said, man, that must have hurt. Wow. Right. The impact of that moment. Thank you, Steve, for just getting in. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Thank you so much, Tracy. I know the feeling. I'm 35. I have only known one family since I was 3 weeks old. I love the family I was raised by, but I understand how Kirk feels. And that's a feeling. Thank you so much, sweetheart. That's a feeling I don't think anybody can process unless you were adopted. I don't think anybody can truly imagine what that feels like, that feeling of maybe displacement or not quite belonging. And it doesn't always have to do with the adoptive family. They could have been a very loving family who did the best that they could, but at the same time, this isn't the bloodline. So you kind of, from what I've heard adoptive children say as adults, that always bothered them. Like they want to know where the bloodline come from, you know. Thank you again, Common Man. So that sounds like my daughter's mother. I'm 62. My daughter's mother was a drop-off child. We used to call them back in the day. Wow. Wow. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to take a commercial break just a little bit earlier than I usually do because we got a lot to cover. So after these messages. We'll be right back.
Join PCTechForum.net is a new site. It's a way we'll be discussing everything related to tech news. They'll be discussing the latest processors, graphic cards, laptops, hard drives, computer cases. They also have a section for pre-built PCs and custom-built PCs, and also a PC straight from the manufacturer. They also be discussing the operating systems and how to troubleshoot them. And said, last but not least, they'll also be discussing the latest games and business. The site is brand new, so people will join for the first time on there. So come and sign up today at PCTechForum.net.
So what you want to do is hit the link at the top of the chat for PCTechForum.net. That is a forum for all things PC, all things nerd, all things software, all things hardware. Whatever you want to discuss, whatever your ideas are, the newest game, the newest technology, whatever the thing is you want to discuss, this is the place where you want to do it at PCTechForum.net. Hit the link at the top of the chat. Become a part of the conversation or start one of your own. I know that I owe you guys a bam, 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 bam. You got to hit the like button, bam, bam. You got to, So go ahead and hit the link, okay? And we are going to get back to this because this is very important. It's not pinned. I could have swore I pinned it. I didn't pin it. I could have swore I pinned that. Why didn't it pin? Why wouldn't it have pinned? It did not. Wow. Okay. I don't know why sometimes it doesn't pin when I pin it. But thank you anyways, you guys. It's a lot to cover because we ain't got to the kicker yet. This is just the beginning. What I want you to do is I want you to watch. I would show you the brothers. You know what? I think that's something that I will show. The men's reaction to one another. He goes to see his father and have that conversation with him about him being his biological father. Fair use. I wanted you to see that moment. Now I want you to see how the mother and the aunt handle this. Let's fast forward. I want you to see how his aunt speaks to him. Now he has not seen these people, spoken to them in like 20 years or so. I just want you to see how. Who you talking to? Who you talking to like that, old woman? Who you talking to? Kirk, a grown man. I don't care what you think or who you think he is or what you think he's doing or what you think is going on. You don't talk to no grown man like that. What is wrong with you? Not even basic decency. Not even basic decency.